All right, everybody. How you doing? It's News Debate. I am Lee. Good to have you here. Check us out at bit.ly/NEWZ debate. Join now at the top of the show with patreon.com/NEWZ debate. Supporter, friend of the show, Apostate Nate. He's at the producer level, which means he gets to pick a topic every month. And Apostate Nate, great to have you on the show. You have chosen to talk about the ongoing and rather new and super interesting Donald Trump versus Elon Musk debate. They have been friends for a long time. Elon Musk gave a lot of money to Donald Trump's campaign. He was running Doge, and then all of a sudden he was not. So would love to hear your thoughts. I see you're a speaker over there, but you're not unmuted. Do you want to say hello, Apostate Nate?
Hi, Lee. Can you hear me? Trying out some different headsets today.
Sounds good.
Good. Lee, I know that somewhere, Lee, I'm on record. Maybe on the.
Oh, we lost you. You said you were on record, and I know what you were about to say. I think Elon Musk is attacking the internet to prevent you from telling the truth of your previous prediction. I don't know that this was, the hardest thing to predict, but it could have gone a different way. It didn't have to go the way that it did. But you were on top of this on a previous show. It shows that you've just dropped. Yeah, once again, Elon Musk, everybody. You've just dropped as a speaker. You're just a listener now. We'll see if we can get Apostate Nate back in the show. In the meantime, I'm live also not only on Twitter Spaces, I'm live over on Stereo, where I have a poll. I choose Trump or I choose Elon Musk. I'm taking Elon Musk in this battle. I'm not a Trump supporter, so anyone other than Trump is usually my go-to. I'll support this person. However, it's a bit complicated here because I think both of them aren't necessarily in any way someone you should trust politically. I do, however, I really like the fact that Elon Musk, for whatever reason, if it was some sort of breakup that they had, okay, maybe it's less meaningful, but I like that he's now criticizing Trump's big, beautiful bill. Which a lot of people on the left are criticizing and some on the right are criticizing as well. So I'm going to go ahead and take the dissenter here rather than the king, rather than the person who said, don't pay attention to this guy. I wanted to get rid of him the entire time, which clearly was not the case. So I think both sides of this coin are not necessarily trustworthy, but for whatever reason, I'm going to take Musk here. All right, we have Apostate Nate joining us back over on Twitter.
So, I think one thing about this that that shouldn't surprise us at all, really, given Trump's first term, is if you remember how much he bragged about hiring the best people. And that's a line he's probably repeated in some other ways since. But I seem to remember that he cleaned house among his own hand-picked appointees the first time around. And it hasn't quite happened that way yet, but I was expecting something like it too. And before I lost my mic, I would just cite as the reason for this is, to me,
And
ability.
go back to what
You
you were
can't have
saying
that much
before Elon
ego.
Musk cut off your internet. You predicted this on my show. I think you said give them, did you say 6 months, 3 months? What did you say?
I probably would have said something like 6 months to a year is what I would have given him before a breakup. Too much ego, too much money in the room at once.
So once again, congratulations. Maybe even your prediction was a little too late, but you did predict it. I remember this distinctly, you saying this. It's back in my audio somewhere. So now it's happened. You're not surprised. I'm not entirely surprised, but it did seem like a crazy with crazy, a crazy match made in the craziest heaven or the craziest hell. So it didn't have to go this way. Not surprised it did, but they could have stuck together longer or the entire 4 years. Well, okay, I would have been surprised if they made it 4 years because, as you mentioned, he appointed a bunch of people in his first term, got rid of them, criticized them. Only a few people stayed with him the entire 4 years, and then thereafter, with all that mess and the reelection campaign, he had like a revolving chair on press secretaries. There was just always a new person. So Donald Trump is not someone that most people stick with for a lifetime unless they're MAGA supporters. But when it comes to having a role in his administration, even being a lawyer for Donald Trump, working for Donald Trump, most people don't make it too long. So why do you think specifically this happened now? Do you buy what I think is sort of an apparent reason? Okay, Musk's businesses were really suffering. Um, Not necessarily SpaceX, but his car business, Tesla, and other stuff just wasn't going so well. So maybe he had to take a step away. And was it just that step away that created this chasm between them? Was there no way for him to leave without this sort of thing happening? Or do you think all of that is just show and something else went on? One of the revelations is that apparently, allegedly, he was telling people that he was taking a lot of drugs. And so when he was on stage with the chainsaw and doing all these crazy things, he did that Nazi salute thing. He was just high out of his mind, which I can believe. Don't know for a fact that that's the case. What was it that created this ongoing feud that we're now so so much enjoying play out in the news media?
Gosh, how do I answer this question? I think as one maybe point of clarity, and I would suspect you probably would know this more than me. I think Elon's appointment was always going to be temporary for Doge. Um, Now, how they were going to leave, how he was going to leave, I honestly have no idea. I mean, I just read a headline from ABC that says Trump is not ready to talk to Musk. And just months ago, Musk was basically living at Mar-a-Lago. Um, I love the idea that it could be like
Yeah,
controlled
these guys were
opposition.
roomies. I mean, like, sometimes you have your roommate from college and you go to their wedding and you meet their kids and you maybe go into business together at some point. These guys are the feuding roommates. They hate each other now.
I mean, what do you do with it? I mean, again, it says Trump not ready to talk. He's the president of the United States. I think he should be able to talk to someone who, in many ways, you could argue not handed Trump the election, but certainly helped.
Oh yeah,
He's the
absolutely.
guy.
Let's not pretend, not that you are, but let's not pretend that Elon Musk did not help. I think he was a huge ally for Trump. From the business community, from the conservative community, from the money community. I mean, he was balls to the walls Trump until he was not.
And Lee, I think on some level, and I don't know what his specific grievance um, is at this point, but I think Musk probably feels, for whatever reason, that he's kind of owed what he wants out of the Trump administration. And it's not that I want to like say that makes sense, but I can see his reasoning. When you put all that
I
capital, all
think
that time
even
into it.
if we say just normal politics, a Democrat certainly pays off their donors and their allies. Republicans definitely do that. And then when you look at Donald Trump, absolutely gives pardons basically for cash. The people who stick with him long enough, and even the people who stick with him on a more short term basis, unless they totally get screwed over, which does happen, usually he does. They scratch his back, he scratches theirs.
Maybe the back scratching uh, ended at the I know one reason people were sort of tossing around is that something to do with the electric car mandate and its relationship to the big beautiful bill. Which, by the way,
So
Lee, can we talk about how?
let's
Go
get to
ahead.
that really quick, though. I wanna focus on that for a second. I'm not sure because the big beautiful bill is a large bill, which Donald Trump was against, and now he's for. So once again, can't trust Trump on most things, but some things like the border, well, he's kind of living up to that. Um, Attacking our allies, attacking our enemies, and he's kind of living up. Well, maybe not so much Russia. He's gone back and forth on that. But aside from the big beautiful bill, California had this electric car mandate by 2035, and the last I saw, that was struck down or that was being challenged by the Trump administration. So, at the very least, in California, we talked about this on the show a long time ago. They had this mandate by 2035. If I remember correctly, you basically were not going to be buying gasoline vehicles by 2035. You could buy hybrids, and that was like 20%, something low, and the rest had to be electric vehicles. Now, clearly, they'll have some opt outs for, do they have an electric garbage truck, that sort of a thing. But when it just came to general vehicles and certainly personal use vehicles, by 2035 in California, if I remember correctly, you had to buy at the very least a hybrid. And most people were going to need to be buying electric cars. And so, since Tesla is the electric car brand in the United States and a lot of ways around the world, say what you will about Elon Musk, very innovative in several ways, including electric vehicles. That's not great for him. But can you remind me, is there something in the big, beautiful bill that's also a kick in the stones to Elon Musk and Tesla? You're still a speaker, Nate. Can you unmute? Goddamn Elon Musk. He's taking out my co hosts. Not sure what's going on your end, apostate Nate. Oh, yep. So you just dropping, so we'll try to get you back on. But it is news debate. I am Lee. We got a lot of people over on stereo. Over on stereo, I have the poll. I choose Trump or I choose Elon Musk. Right now, Elon Musk is winning with about 67% of the vote. Once again, I choose Elon Musk in this showdown. I would rather choose a third person, but Trump versus Elon, I'm taking Elon thus far. Over on stereo, let us know which one you choose and why. Leave a voice message. I'll play it live on the air. Apostate Nate is back with us. Do you recall anything in the big, beautiful bill specifically about electric vehicles?
So I don't have that specific spot in the bill for you, but I am looking at a Wall Street Journal article published today that does mention um, the role of EVs in this mess, and specifically, the first thing I noticed in this article, it talks about how certain tax credits are going to be revoked, which obviously, you're going to disincentivize purchasing an electric vehicle. Musk is going to have a
And in
problem
all
with that.
fairness to Donald Trump, that's a general Republican thing. So you don't have to blame, not that you are, but we don't have to blame Trump for that. Republicans are generally not for renewable energy, green energy. And so if there's some sort of baked in buy any electric car and you get some sort of tax rebate or whatever it is, I would expect any bill with a Republican president and the power they have in Congress to try to get rid of that.
Yeah, it is the paradox, I think, right now, Lee, that you have all these Republicans out there supporting Elon, buying Teslas. I have family that, in my opinion, have probably done just that with their Tesla purchase. But historically, this is not a vehicle that has really been anything but the butt of a joke for Republicans and conservatives. I remember when the Toyota Prius came out years ago, for example, and Republicans laughed at it. I think they called it the Al Gore mobile.
Yeah, the Al Gore mobile. Poor Al Gore. Poor Al Gore. And of course, Teslas needs to be said, and electric vehicles in general. But Tesla really was at the forefront. They were more expensive. Your average person could never dream. Well, they could dream, but in reality, not afford a Tesla. But now you can get an electric vehicle for a decent price in the United States and certainly other parts of the world. There's a lot of stuff going on in China, and that gets connected to tariffs and everything. But for the longest time, electric vehicles were the liberal California thing. And then when Musk got connected to Trump and did the chainsaw, the pseudo Nazi salute, um, that flipped, and we saw reports, and I think these were underplayed, but it was happening so much the news had to cover it, which has a liberal bias 99% of the time. Maybe that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Liberal people go into the news. When you get into the news, you become liberal, whatever it is. Liberal bias across all of the mainstream outlets, except for Fox News and a handful of others that are becoming a little bit more mainstream. Um, but to go back to my original point, this was the liberal thing. And it flipped, and people were attacking Tesla, literally physically attacking Tesla cars. The Cybertruck in particular, I think, has become the FU to the liberal side of things, because that's just this weird, super expensive truck, but it is electronic. So it is better for the environment in those ways, just like a Prius or anything else, or what is it, a Chevy Bolt or whatever they have now. Mainstream car companies in the United States are now offering these electronic options. But we have a Republican president. We have a lot of control in Congress from the Republican Party. So that's a thing they're not liking. They're trying to get rid of, once again, 2035 in California. So do you think that's what caused this breakup? Was it just his business, or was it something else? Was it a bunch of different things?
Given how much money and time and of his image that Elon has tied to the Trump administration, um, I have to think that there's more than one factor in play. I feel like if this story, if we fast forwarded to the future and there were the documentary fresh on Netflix in 3 parts, I think we would know a heck of a lot more about Elon's motives in all of this. I do think he's a hard person to figure out. I think he's a hard person to read. Um, I'd love to know what's going through his head half the time. And since you have brought this up twice, I have to ask you
Drugs.
because
Drugs. That's a lot of the stuff going through his mind, I
a
think.
lot
Yeah.
of a lot of chatter, in particular, about ketamine. That's what I've
And the fact
heard
that
through a
apparently he was
rumor run.
taking so much of it, he was having some urine issues. Wow, urine issues. I guess he was peeing a lot. He was losing control of his bladder, whatever it was. That's being reported now. Allegedly, he was telling people that. Not a great sign when you're a billionaire. But I guess when you're a billionaire, you can afford some adult diapers. So maybe that's been taken care of. So yeah, we have the drugs, we have the electric cars. I really do think just this transition created an enormous opportunity for the fallout to happen. And so it could just be simply that they were still on good terms, but perhaps because of his businesses not doing as well as he had hoped, and as well as they were before his support for Donald Trump, he needed to take a step back. And that just created the opportunity for, it looked like he was leaving Donald Trump. It did not look like Donald Trump was kicking him out. He got that golden key. Now, at that ceremony in the White House, he did have like a black eye, and he said his child X punched him in the face. Whether or not that's true, it did look very. It was very Trump-esque. Nothing goes normal when it comes to a ceremony, some sort of speech from Donald Trump involving other people. And for all these things, I think that it could just be that when he left, Donald Trump said something, he said something, and it just escalated into this war of words. It's gotten to the point that Elon said he was going to start denying SpaceX services and like strand the astronauts up in the International Space Station. I believe I read recently within the past like 12 hours that he's sort of reneged on that threat. But now I'm looking at CNN Politics. This is the most recent article I could grab from CNN. President Donald Trump told CNN today he is not even thinking about billionaire Elon Musk and won't be speaking to him in the near future. The poor guy's got a problem, Trump said in a phone call. The comments come after Trump and Musk traded barbs on social media yesterday as their relationship deteriorated in spectacular public fashion. Yes, that's what we're all enjoying now. Trump said yesterday he was very disappointed with the tech billionaire for criticizing his massive tax and spending cuts package. So I think that was also a fire point here. I think it was an interview with a journalist, and he criticized it openly, like in an interview that was being recorded. He knew what he was saying, or at least he should have known what he was saying and what possible repercussions there could be. And then perhaps it's just as simple as that. That's what sparked this feud. So once Trump said, don't like that he's criticizing my big, beautiful bill, Musk fired back that Trump would have lost the election without him. So, Trump often goes through this war of words with people. Sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't. I have a feeling that there might not be a way to undo this. Yeah, back to you, Apostate Nate. You have your hand up.
Yeah, Lee, I wanted to let you finish that because I found another angle to this, and that's that, and this was from Axios. It looks like Trump canceled a NASA appointment to one of Elon's buddies, Lee. So that's very interesting. Some staffers think that might have been the start of a
Yeah,
fight
that was
again.
the head of NASA, and they had been talking about it, or maybe it had been issued, but then it was either pulled back or they just decided to go in a different direction.
Yeah, and that's the gist of it. So there's not much more to speculate other than that's something I would add to the pile. I wish we could fast forward to the Netflix documentary, Lee. The inherent problem with a hot take is that hot takes involve stories that are often still developing.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Well, if we were to fast forward to that three-part, like you said, three-part Netflix documentary series, and imagine some of those details that could come up. There's certainly things we don't know yet that will come out of the woodwork at some point. But I feel like Elon Musk is going to lose this feud because we're talking about MAGA supporters here, and it's all about Donald Trump. It doesn't matter how much you like a tech billionaire. It doesn't matter how much you like this person or that person. I really think being a Republican now is about supporting Donald Trump and not necessarily supporting what you want from him or what he says he's going to give to you or what he gave you at one time but then reneged on. It's about just supporting him. That's the cult of Donald Trump that has basically become the cult of being a Republican, a cult of being a conservative Christian in the United States. And I don't see anything he does really stopping that. It doesn't matter if the facts come out that Elon Musk was really good to him and he was betrayed by Trump. It doesn't matter if Elon Musk, maybe in a vacuum, is saying things that a majority of Republicans could understand and get behind and believe themselves. I really think Trump's bulletproof in this and most other things, but certainly in this, I don't see Elon Musk having conservative support in the long term. I don't think Elon Musk is going to be someone that I don't think he'll be taken back in by the left the way that he was with electric vehicles. He might just be some weird other.
Lee, I remember a distinct headline, and I wish I could place it at one. I can't remember what selection it was, um, if it was 2016 or the most recent, but there was a headline that said, "It's Trump's party now," meaning there was nothing left of the Republican Party, as so many people understood it. I have to agree with that. I mean, it might overstate the case a little bit, but I do think it's Trump's party now.
Yeah, that's basically my thoughts in a more succinct way to put it. Reggie is joining us over on Twitter Spaces, friend of the show, Reggie. He tweets Trump would have won regardless of Elon. Kamala had no plan, and anyone could have seen that. Depending on what's in the big, beautiful bill, will determine who wins this fight. Yeah, I'm not sure if he would have won without Elon. You're right. Kamala Harris lost that election. Hillary Clinton lost that election. Even though Donald Trump did not win the popular vote, his winning the Electoral College was more of a Clinton and Democrat loss. And 150,000% I don't think he won this election. I think Kamala lost this election, but because he won so decisively with the popular vote and the electoral college, I would give him more credit in this election than his first time he became president. However, both times, this is absolutely Democrats shit the bed. And specifically with Kamala Harris going on The View and being asked, oh, is there anything, the Biden administration, the president has done in the last 4 years that you would have done differently? No. And then the host being like, are you sure you don't want another try at that answer? No, not really. No. That that was Kamala Harris. I think Hillary Clinton, for all of her warts, was a better candidate, ran a better campaign that certainly had its problems and big mistakes that were made. Basket of deplorables, and then what was it? She never went to Michigan or Wisconsin, like one of the states she just didn't go to that was really important to her. So like big mistakes. But Kamala Harris was a shit show, and Kamala Harris had all the momentum. She had everybody so excited that we didn't have to vote for Joe Biden, and she just lost it. I don't think Hillary Clinton ever had that amount of excitement. Kamala Harris had it. It was handed to her on a silver platter, and she fumbled, 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 fumbled. To go back to Elon Musk's support, I do think Elon Musk's support was a major component of Donald Trump's success. I don't have enough math in front of me to be able to say, could he have done it without Elon? I think it's certainly possible. But let's just table that for a second. Reggie writes, depending on what's in the big beautiful bill, that will determine who will win this fight. I don't know anything that could happen with that bill before it becomes law that could give Elon Musk the edge. Because once again, it's the cult of Donald Trump, the cult of MAGA that has become the Republican Party. And I just don't think Elon Musk has any momentum on his side to undo that. So I don't think it matters how the bill turns out. I don't think Republicans are going to care anything about what Elon continues to say if he does continue to talk about his disappointment with this spending bill. Because once again, Republicans are supposed to be fiscal responsibility, get rid of the deficit, and that's not what this bill is. So, in all fairness, Republicans often do that. It's not just a Donald Trump thing, but this does play right in to Donald Trump's playbook. And Reggie, if you want to join us with your voice, we'd love to hear from you. It's always a pleasure to have Reggie on the show. He's not always able to, but you can keep tweeting and I can read those. What do you think, Apostate Nate?
Lee, I think this issue is it's breaking my brain because the phrase that I can't get out of my head right now is the phrase pot committed. When you're playing a game of poker and you don't know if you're going to get what you want, but it doesn't matter because you're just so invested. So, as much as I'm not surprised by the breakup, the more I think about how involved Elon was in just about every way you can be. I mean, it's my opinion and the opinion of others. He bought this platform primarily to
Oh
influence the
yeah, I
election.
don't think that's even debatable at this point. I forget how much, but was it 300 million, something like that he gave to Trump? Plus, you can imagine other ways that he gave money to Trump that maybe is less traceable. Yeah, you're right. He lived at Mar-a-Lago. Trump created Doge and put Elon Musk with a chainsaw at the head of it. They did all of these crazy things. They like were stealing. They're probably continuing to, but certainly in the past they just stole data from the government and the American people. Services have been really put in jeopardy. Like USAID is basically gone. I think the last I heard, Voice of America is still gone. So many things right down the list that they've destroyed, and whether or not that's good or bad, it's very disruptive. Republicans don't want to get rid of all social services because Medicare and Medicaid are very popular. They do these man on the street interviews or these like Pew polls, and they'll say, "What do you think about socialism?" And everybody in America hates it. But then when they ask them about our socialistic programs like Medicare and Medicaid, those poll very well. So Republicans, this is part of the big beautiful bill is cuts to those types of services, but they frame it as, well, people who don't work are lazy, so we need to get them off Medicaid, which we've talked about recently on the show. I have some nuanced thoughts on that. And they can talk about, oh, we need to fix this with Medicare, but they can't just outright get rid of it, because old people vote for Republicans, old people vote for Donald Trump, and they love Medicare. So they have to go about this a certain way. But yes, to go back to your point, Elon Musk definitely bought his influence with Donald Trump. Absolutely. I don't think there's any way to debate that.
And I think for that reason alone, the bill for that was not cheap. So then I want to know, it can't be just one thing. There's stuff about this we don't know. He spent a fortune, a literal fortune that most people couldn't dream of in multiple lifetimes to get his foot into Trump's cabinet and influence essentially. And it's just so hard for me to think at the same time that he can, just leave that. But I don't know. Maybe he got what he wanted and he's gone. Maybe he didn't get what he wanted and he's gone. I need to see the Netflix documentary, Lee. Give me the link.
Yeah, to talk about what he wanted, I think this is the real truth of Donald Trump is no one gets what they want or what they, if you will, deserve from Donald Trump. You pay hundreds of millions of dollars. I think he paid 300 million, something like that. Don't quote me. Um, Clearly, this didn't go the way Musk had envisioned. It did for like the first 100 days, but not up to this point. And so many people have bent over backwards to help Donald Trump, and they just never get what they think that is going to equal. He doesn't scratch their back just quite the same way that they scratch his. Let's jump over to stereo, and we're going to hear from Grady. Grady.
I choose neither. I think they both deserve their punishment. And I think that there's a lot more people that have been doing things that's been causing harm to American citizens and the people around the world. So, yeah, I don't agree with either. And I feel like they both should lose. No winners, just losers between the two. That's my opinion.
Well, I certainly agree with you. I think most Americans are losers when these two teamed up. But yeah, it's two different ways to look at this. So over on stereo, my poll is I choose Trump or I choose Elon Musk. That's the feud. But when it comes to politics, I absolutely support I choose neither. It's just with Trump being in the White House and so much control in Congress and other areas of government, the Supreme Court, which Trump is directly responsible for. Um, I don't think Trump loses. If we have to have a battle royale between these two, I don't see any way that Elon Musk comes out as the winner. Because once again, MAGA, the Republican Party, is the Trump cult. It is Trump's house. And yeah, your house can burn down. And I guess you can imagine Trump could somehow lose this battle, or Trump could somehow lose support of the Republican Party. I know his polling numbers as of late have not been great. It's been historically low, I think, at the 100-day mark. But that's Trump. He comes at you in waves. He lost his reelection campaign to Biden, but clearly he destroyed Kamala Harris. He comes at you in waves. Oh, it's Mrs. Smitty. How you doing? We have stereo royalty over on stereo. Love to hear from you. Go ahead and leave us a voice message if you have a moment. Yeah, back to you, Apostate Nate, over on Twitter Spaces.
Lee, the Atlantic is reporting, in addition to what we've been talking about, that Musk also had angered Trump's tariff advisors. And that makes sense because Elon definitely has his hands on product that is going to be impacted by tariffs. In fact, there was a recent TV interview. I can't remember which of the big three networks it was, where they tried to ask him about Trump's tariffs, and he basically said, "No, we're going to talk about like rockets." And I mean, it
I
was
just
so
I just
awkward.
want to talk about spaceships. I thought we were going to talk about spaceships. Yeah, I think that was a CBS like Sunday morning interview, something like that. And that was where he made the comment that he was very disappointed in the spending bill, the big, beautiful spending bill. And I think that's what really ignited this fire. There could have been other things going on between them. Clearly, they separated. They had that ceremony before the interview, but I think that's what really ignited it. So there's probably a lot of other reasons that we will find out in that 3-part documentary series on Netflix that Apostate Nate is predicting. What a watch that'll be. But I think that's what really lit the fire. And then Trump responded. Elon said he was going to like pull SpaceX out and strand the astronauts in space. I think he's reneged on that a little bit. Let's go back to CNN. In a sign of their break, Trump is planning to get rid of the Tesla he purchased in March. Trump had previously allowed some of his younger staffers to use the car. As of Friday, it was visibly parked in the West Executive driveway. Back in March, as you might remember, Trump transformed the South Lawn into what resembled a Tesla showroom. Later that day, he publicly announced he was purchasing the Tesla and had even bought a Cybertruck for his granddaughter. Wow, such a giving guy, Donald Trump. As the two billionaires clash over Trump's sweeping tax and domestic policy bill, that big, beautiful bill turned increasingly personal yesterday. Several people familiar with what was happening behind the scenes, who were desperately making calls to one another, trying to end the escalating feud, described Musk's invocation of the Jeffrey Epstein files as the tipping point. Oh, that's right. So I think the tipping point was the CBS interview, but then it even got worse. He tweeted this: "Time to drop the really big bomb. At real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files." I completely forgot about this. He continues, "That is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, Donald J. Trump." Wow. I forgot about that. Yeah, that was ooh boy. Yeah, that was a big one.
This is so entertaining. Like, this just gets better and better and better. Apostate Nate is out of apostate popcorn at this point.
Yeah, I got to get more of that apostate popcorn. I assume that would be more like kettle corn with like a little caramel as opposed to just normal popcorn. It's the sweet and the salty. We're getting 100% emoji over on Twitter Spaces. God, that kettle corn, that's really good. This news debate, I am Lee. Leave your voice messages over on Stereo. Request to speak over on Twitter Spaces. You can also tweet me over on twitter.com/NEWZ debate. You can check out all my links at bit.ly/NEWZ debate. And you can be like Apostate Nate and a bunch of other cool people who support this show every month over on patreon.com/NEWZ debate. I want to give a shout out to my supporters like Apostate Nate, Lola, Shannon, Sneaky Elbow, Ron, MC Funk, Bjorn, and Better Vibes. Patreon.com/NEWZ debate makes the show go round. And depending on how much you want to throw at me every month, you can choose my topics. Like this topic was chosen by Apostate Nate, good friend of the show and Patreon supporter. You can also just throw me the lowest amount, and that makes you an instant co-host on all shows. So we want to hear from lots of people. Just join us over on Twitter Spaces, leave voice messages over on Stereo. But of course, if you're a Patreon supporter, I'm just like Donald Trump. You throw a little money my way, you get a little bit more gravitas on the show. Reggie has tweeted, "Is the Epstein list just a flight log or an actual list of people known to engage in shady activities?" I'm not sure. I think the Epstein list was people who had connections with him, but that would be a ton of people. So the list might have been the people who had connections past a certain point that they deemed important to log. I'm not quite sure. Whatever the case is, those final files allegedly were released and we got to look at them. And I remember I didn't look at them specifically, but all the coverage I saw was that it was more information, no smoking gun, and it was just more of what we already knew. So good that we got the information, but didn't really change a lot. But in that tweet, Elon Musk is alleging that not all of that information was released because Donald Trump was part of that information. So theoretically, he's saying there's more that specifically points to Donald Trump. You guys didn't see it. Have a nice day, President. Yeah, that's more of yet another example of why I think this doesn't get healed. I mean, Donald Trump could smooth over his relationship with Elon Musk. I absolutely think it's possible because that's what Donald Trump does. He comes at you in waves. His allies join and separate him in waves. His enemies join and separate him in waves. You know, he's pro Russia, and then sometimes he's lukewarm Russia. He's never really anti Russia, but you know, he comes at you in waves. So I have no real way to predict how this is going to turn out other than if Donald Trump and him don't bury the hatchet, Trump wins. That's my 150% guess. And that's what I think we'll see play out in that hypothetical future. Check it out. 3-point series that a 3-part series that Apostate Nate is predicting over on Netflix. Yeah, back to you, Nate.
So the Babylon Bee had a terrific headline and piece of
Now
AR.
that is the Onion, but for Christians, right? The Babylon Bee.
The Onion for Christian conservatives, and I have to say that it's a lot funnier than I thought I would find it at times. Yesterday, their headline, I forget how it was worded, but the picture was Donald Trump throwing a Molotov cocktail at a Tesla dealership. That's funny.
And true to life. I mean, I believe I've seen coverage that was not made up. And once again, because mainstream media is so liberally biased, it was probably underreported, definitely underreported. But I saw Teslas burning. That was something that was happening in the last several months. So, Nate, where do we go from here? Like, do you think it's just going to be more words exchanged between the two? Do we think Elon gives some sort of high profile interview where he spills not only he thinks that Donald Trump is part of the Epstein files, but he gives us actual tangible proof of things that went on behind the scenes that could really make I mean, because it's hard to make Donald Trump look worse than just his actions make him look. But might he, you know, have a leak of some of all the information he had access to that really could change even Republicans' viewpoints of Donald Trump, or certainly just give more ammo to liberals, to the Democratic Party to try to take him down?
I think you have to entertain that as a serious possibility because, again, Elon is, in my opinion, pot committed. He's walked away, but I mean, Lee, walking away from something you spent a whole lot of money on is tough. And when you're the world's richest man, and what you spent your money on kind of makes you look foolish, because this is not a good look for Elon. I don't think. Do you? I mean, maybe that's the question of the
That's a
day.
really good point. So let's focus on that. I don't think Trump looks foolish in this breakup because Trump is always foolish. That's not new for him. And once again, that's not going to change MAGA. That's not going to change Republican support for him. I think Elon looks really foolish in this breakup. Now, you could argue his support monetarily and being part of Doge made him look foolish, and it did tarnish. You know, liberals used to look at Elon Musk and say, look, an immigrant, look what he's done. He's not from the United States. He's a white guy, but he's not from the United States. He's from South Africa. Came here, I believe, to go to school, which was something that came up in that CBS interview. I don't think he actually replied to that in a way that gave us anything to talk about today, but he was asked about that. He's been asked about that previously. Trump just now has the ban from like several countries and restrictions from even more countries. and trying to get rid of foreign students at Harvard and doing all this thing that's anti-foreign students. But for the longest time, Elon Musk, even back in the day when liberals liked him, he was a bit rough. But yeah, he lost that momentum with Democrats. And now I don't think he has momentum with Republicans. So yeah, I think he does end up looking foolish. At the very least, that's something I predict because I think Trump will win. Elon Musk now looks completely idiotic, where Donald Trump, since he always looks completely idiotic, that's not a change.
Yeah, and Lee, if Elon disappeared tomorrow, MAGA is still there. Okay? They're still there. Elon on his own does not have that type of support. It's not even close. Trump would play football stadiums. Elon would play dive bars.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Well, let's let the cat out of the bag. I mean, Donald Trump, I debuted this some time ago. He's now joining me on every single show. Let's ask the president what he thinks about all this. Mr. President, I know that Elon Musk used to be your friend, and now you guys don't like each other at all. What happened between you two?
Let me tell you, folks, when you're a winner like me, you're going to have people who are jealous, who are haters. And that's what happened with this so-called friendship. It was a total disaster from the start, and I'm glad I got out of it.
So what happens in the future, Mr. President? Are you going to continue attacking Elon Musk?
The future is going to be tremendous, believe me. And as for that guy, he's a total loser. Can't even run a company without going bankrupt. I've built empires. I've made billions. And I'm not going to let some failed entrepreneur like him get in my way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Donald Trump's gone bankrupt, I believe. So, if the shoe fits, I'm not sure that that's the biggest diss he can throw towards Elon Musk. But once again, this is what happens when you talk to the president. He punches back harder than you punch him. He's bulletproof. He survived one real assassination attempt, the guy on the roof that hit him in the ear with the bullet fragment. And that other guy that camped outside the golf course in Florida who didn't get a shot off, luckily, this guy's bulletproof. You can't touch him. So that's why over on Stereo, I choose Donald Trump. I choose Elon Musk. You can choose who you want to choose. And in fact, Elon Musk is winning with about 2/3 of the vote over on Stereo. But in reality, he's not going to win this battle. He's just not. He doesn't have the cult following him. He was cult adjacent. He was part of that cult. But when the cult leader kicks you out, when you criticize that cult leader, you're done. So his investment with like $300 million, was it, to Donald Trump, that's gone. Running Doge, is Doge going to exist? He's done. Even if they bury the hatchet and they become friends, he's lost that power. His whatever he was going to get from that $300 million or however much it was, he got it. I don't see anything more coming his way. So now all we have to look forward to are the juicy details that are going to continue probably to come forth regarding this. The ongoing feud between them, if that continues, so we'll just be able to sit there with the apostate Nate popcorn and enjoy that, like that Michael Jackson meme. But best case scenario for Elon Musk, they just go their separate ways, and that's how they go. And he loses all of that power and money that he gave to Donald Trump. Worst case scenario, you got liberals who don't want to buy his car anymore. Conservatives aren't going to want to buy his car anymore. There's the threat that SpaceX will lose some government funds, will lose some government contracts, which is something Donald Trump totally sounds like something he would do. So I don't know. I mean, Elon Musk, maybe he's not afraid. When you have that much money, does it matter that your companies are losing a significant amount of money? That's an argument we could have. I guess my advice to Elon Musk at this point would just be to just sort of take your lashes and move on. I apologize. I think Reggie was requesting to speak over on Twitter Spaces. I was about to bring him up, and then I saw it disappear. So Reggie, if you want to throw in, go ahead and request to speak again. And Apostate Nate, since you're my supporter over on Patreon at the producer level and you chose the topic for today's show, is there anything else that you want to throw out there?
There are quite a few people right now who think this is controlled opposition. I think that, like the South Park episode where all of the candidates teamed up to steal the Hope Diamond in the 2008 election, that this is absolutely theater, and it's designed just as another game of 5D chess where, there's a whole lot of art of the deal justifications going on here, if that makes sense, Lee.
So if I understand you correctly, are you saying that Elon Musk and Trump are not feuding and it's part of a plan?
Well, it's not my opinion, but there are some out there who absolutely hold that opinion. Doesn't take a whole lot of time in the Twitter sphere to find it, too.
Okay, so as a conspiracy theory, this is interesting to me. I would say it just doesn't work out from just a few moments of thinking about it, because Elon Musk is losing lots of money right now. His companies are not doing well. And I don't know if you have theater like this that you say Donald Trump is connected to like the most infamous, it can't speak, infamous like pedophile sex offender who mysteriously died in jail, Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know if that's the attack you throw out there, if this is choreographed. But I do appreciate you're just bringing up this conspiracy theory to throw it out there. It's interesting, certainly, and it's something
I
that
think
I
it's
think
nuts.
that
It's
yeah, it's
nuts.
nuts.
I
It's
just
interesting
make
though
me
because
laugh.
that would allow conservatives to still like Elon and say, "Oh, he's just playing a part in all this." Let's bring Reggie up on the show. How you doing, Reggie? What do you want to throw into the conversation?
Oh, fun times. I actually just wanted to come up and say that if you're going to have somebody do a voice, they really got to try to nail it. Like, we're going to win. We're going to win bigly. Elon's a loser. He's always been a loser. We're just going to win. We're going to win all the time. We're going to win so much.
Wow, you're attacking my Donald Trump impersonator. Well, let's see what he has to say about that. Mr. President, I'm speaking to Reggie right now over on Twitter Spaces, and he says, "You don't sound like the real Donald Trump."
Folks, let me tell you, nobody is better than me at knowing who I am. And I can tell you, I'm the real deal, 100%. And if some loser on Twitter Spaces doesn't think so, that's their problem, not mine.
Mr. President, are there any really Trump-like things you can say about Reggie right now to bring him down and make him feel not good about himself?
Some people are just total failures. They can't even get a decent tweet out, and now they're questioning my identity. It's sad, really sad, and I feel sorry for them, but not too sorry, because when you're a winner like me, you've got to expect the haters to come out of the woodwork.
Yeah, now you look like a fool, Reggie. Real fool. Yeah, I'm still working on the Donald Trump. It's a work in progress. It's a complicated thing I got going on here. I want to improve the voice a little bit, but I feel like it has enough Trumpy words, and I feel like it has enough attitude. I really think it's dialed in. I'm still working on the voice. But Reggie, what do you think about this? You've been tweeting a bit about Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Who would you choose in this feud? And then secondly, who do you think's going to win? Because I choose Elon Musk out of the two, but I think Trump's going to win.
I mean, they're both acting like children in this regard. So there's really no winner of sorts. There's no actual winner. Of course, people are going to choose sides, but I think at the end of the day, the one who's probably in the right about what's going on is Elon.
Wow. Yeah. I won't ask the president what he thinks about Reggie's comics. I feel like we've nailed Reggie to the side of the wall just enough. But yeah, I really do think that if you're going to pick sides on this, you have to, oddly enough, go with the eccentric billionaire, who not a lot of people like right now, who also may have been peeing his pants because he was taking too many drugs, including ketamine. It's weird to choose him versus the president of the United States, who not only won the recent election, but decisively won the election because once again, Kamala Harris lost and shat the bed. But I would take Elon Musk. I think he's more trustworthy here. Oddly enough, I think probably his criticisms of the big beautiful spending bill are in many ways just from a party that claims to be the party of fiscal responsibility. It claims to be the party of lowering the deficit. It claims to be the party of this, that, and the other. And then they put out this bill. I can't remember the numbers, but if you look at Donald Trump's short tenure in his second term versus the Biden administration, from what I've seen, he's increasing spending, even when you calculate all the layoffs, all the destruction that Doge was able to do. So this is not a new thing for the Republicans, but the way that Trump does it and then gets called out by Elon Musk, I do think he's the more reliable of the two with that specific situation. When he tweets about Epstein files and things like that, I don't know what that means. I don't think Jeffrey Epstein killed himself in jail. I think he was murdered, but I don't know that that's connected to Trump. I don't know that there's some files that were not released that connect Trump to Epstein. I don't know that for a fact. In fact, I bet there's probably not. But just when it comes to the big, beautiful bill, and then also just looking at people who have supported Trump and given him money and done a lot of work for him, you always get screwed over. I mean, even just look at MAGA supporters who support Trump to this day. They're losing government services. They're not getting what they think they're getting from Trump. Now, if you look at the border, I think they are. And if you look at the way he talks to our allies about NATO funding and other things, I think they are, because there's a lot of truth to the fact that Democrats screwed up the border. Republicans could have fixed it a few times and they didn't. But if you look at the party that wants to deport people who should not be here, that's the Republican Party. That's not the Democratic Party. They bend over backwards to protect people and give them social services and drive them to their immigration appointments when they come to the country illegally, when they overstay their visas. Wasn't the guy who used a homemade flamethrower and burned a survivor of the Holocaust, someone who overstayed his visa? And then I think the Trump administration was trying to deport his family and a judge blocked it or something. But like, even the worst case scenario for an illegal alien in the United States, Democrats cannot get behind. Well, just deport his entire family. And I just think that's why Trump has power, because Democrats keep losing over and over again because they will not get rid of their culture wars. They will not get rid of their 150% support of trans youth and trans people, no matter the situation. And now you're even starting to have Democrats like Governor Gavin Newsom of California who have changed their beliefs when it comes to trans youth and sports, and you can just play for any team that you want. He says that's not fair. That's the real legacy of Donald Trump, is pointing out even to Democrats how ridiculous some of their cultural policies are and immigration policies, and just not criticizing our allies even when they're breaking their NATO treaty. Is it 2% of their economy that they have to spend on military, and they don't do it, and then no one says anything? And that's why, unfortunately, the broken clock argument for Donald Trump, he's right twice a day, he is right on some of these things. And Democrats are falling apart, and they're starting to say, well, we can't just blindly support things that even our supporters who still support us at best case are going, I don't know about that. So it's a shit show. Going back to the original comment from Stereo, let me play that again. There's not winners, there's not losers, there's everyone's a loser when Donald Trump is the president. This is from Grady over on Stereo.
I choose neither. I think they both deserve their punishment. And I think that there's a lot more people that have been doing things that's been causing harm to American citizens and the people around the world. So, yeah, I don't agree with either. And I feel like they both should lose. No winners, just losers between the two. That's my opinion.
And that's the sad thing about the Democratic Party now. I think it was Jon Stewart some months ago, when Kamala Harris lost. A lot of liberal people don't like Jon Stewart anymore because he's heavily criticizing them. And I say, thank God he is, because he's the voice of reason coming from a liberal mouth. He's a liberal guy, and he just says terrible things about the Democrats. And if I remember correctly, he did one really impassioned speech where he said, "You left us with no way to defend ourselves against Donald Trump and the Republicans because you ran such a terrible campaign, because you worry more about people." I don't think he said this specifically, but I'll expand it. You worry more about people who come to the country illegally or have been here illegally for years than homeless people, than people who were born and raised American who don't have health insurance, which is tens of millions of people who do have health insurance, but if they have a major health crisis, go bankrupt. Because if you have health insurance and you get cancer, you get hit by a car, you still have to pay tens of thousands of dollars. We don't have mandatory maternal leave. If you have a baby in the United States, I hope you have a job that pays you for at least a couple of weeks. All of our allies have all of these nice things, and we don't have any of them. So even without Donald Trump, everyone in America loses because of our terrible system, but especially with Donald Trump and looking at this feud with Elon Musk, no one wins. We all lose. And it's not hard for me to come to that conclusion. Go around the world, talk to people in other countries. They have health insurance. If they don't work, the government gives them money. Some countries give them money when they go to school. Their school is free. Even if you have to pay, it's like a couple €100 or something. Like it's just crazy how much better it is in other countries than it is in the United States. I know that, we technically lost Vietnam and the Iraq invasion didn't go well. But when it comes to the wars where you lose and your country is taken over, or you lose and your country doesn't exist anymore, we haven't lost any of those wars. But it feels like it feels like we're living in a country where we lost a world war. You go to Europe, which was just, like 3 days, the Nazis took over all of Europe, like France surrendered, after 7 minutes or something, it's much better living there. Now, do we have innovation in the United States that they don't have anywhere else? Absolutely. Are there some things like gun rights and freedom of speech, even though that's been eroded as of late in the United States, that's better than anywhere else? Yes. If you like gun rights, that's a positive. If you don't, if you're like me and want to live in a nice country where school shootings don't happen all the time, it's a negative. But we have those rights. But God, I would trade and have a little less freedom of speech, which other countries still have freedom of speech. It's not quite as much, and a whole lot less guns and a lot less innovation if it meant people here were taken care of, or at least not thrown to the curb like they are in the United States regularly. And if you look at our allies, they don't have open door immigration and illegal immigration policies like we do. Even if you look at Canada, which is a very diverse country and has a lot of immigration, it shares one border with the United States. If Canada shared a border with Mexico and the rest of Central and South America, they would have much less immigration. They're in a very easy situation to be in. We're not in that situation. And this is why Democrats have to do better. My party has to do better. I don't predict that they will. Talking about predictions of Trump versus Musk, I don't predict the Democrats are going to do any better. Even after Trump leaves the White House, I don't think he's going to get a third term. I don't think they're going to have a Republican to replace him. But still, the Republicans, at the very least, are going to be doing better than the Democrats. The Democrats just can't give up their culture wars, their tribalism. They just can't. It's just not, they have too many angry, loud voices in their party and on social media to do that. You're going to have more and more people coming out like Gavin Newsom who will come out against certain things, but they're not going to break away from the party. It's funny because the Republicans had the Tea Party thing and then they brought it in. They had the MAGA thing. It just took over the party. The Democrats are actually the less welcoming party of the two. It's harder to take over the Democratic Party than it is the Republican Party. Clearly so. That's the reality that we live in. And the effect of all that, not being able to take over the Democratic Party, is we have presidents like Joe Biden who won't leave the White House, and then he throws the keys to Kamala and she drops them. We have to have a more robust primary system in the Democratic Party. I don't like AOC in general. There are a lot of things I dislike about her, but I would love to see her run for president because at least that would be exciting. That's a president I could get behind and actually vote for because despite the things I don't like about her, I think she brings a lot of disruption to the table, less so every day. She's much more of a mainstream candidate now than she's ever been. And that just happens. You get elected, you have to have donors, you realize you can't do everything that you wanted to do. But she's still fiery. And I would love to have her in the White House and just at the very least see what happens. But I think she could do a lot of good, even though I don't generally like her. And I think she rubs a lot of people the wrong way. I could imagine voting for her because we need disruption on the left, the way that Donald Trump has brought disruption to the right. Apostate Nate or Reggie, anybody over on stereo, leave a voice message. What do you guys think?
I am kind of curious about maybe your specific criticisms of AOC, mainly because I don't normally hear those coming from the left. I hear those coming from the right. So maybe if you wouldn't mind sharing some light there, Lee. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, generally, I think she's a liberal person who wants to make America better for everybody. So that's why I could vote for her as president. But she is one of those loud, angry voices on the left who, in many ways, is ruining it for everybody. She won't give up her fights for LGBTQ youth and the LGBTQ community overall, even though if you were less intense about those, you could get a lot of stuff done. And I think we're seeing that from other Democrats. So I think she's someone who's not going to ever give that up. And I think that's a losing battle. And it's just like triage. You know, if you watch a World War II movie and you're a medic, what's that? Hacksaw Ridge? You know, they have triage. If someone is shot in the neck and they're going to die in 15 minutes, maybe you just give them morphine. AOC really needs to look at her policies and think what are the things that are going to prevent me from getting elected and are going to help. I support trans youth and the LGBTQ community. I consider myself an ally, but that's not as important as the tens of millions of people who don't have health insurance. It's not as important as actually getting people out of the country who broke the law to come here or overstayed their visas and are getting benefits from the United States government more so than if they were actually citizens of the United States government. So those are mostly my criticisms of AOC, but that's kind of just liberalism in general.
Yep. Thanks, Lee. Appreciate that. Um, I actually don't know. I don't know a ton about AOC, um, but I think that makes sense. That sounds about right. There are costs to every political battle and war you fight. Sometimes the battles that you fight are just causes, and sometimes the just causes that you fight are just causes that you don't have enough political capital to fight. And I think maybe that's where the left gets bogged down is we want to spend all of our political capital on everything all at once and our pockets turn up empty.
And I think that's a difference that you see with governors versus people in Congress. People in Congress, I think, can fight those battles that maybe as a Democrat, I wish they would give up on, or at the very least say this is important, but what's more important is healthcare for all. But if you're a governor, you almost always, even in Republican states, have to work with Democrats and you have to govern, you have budgets, and you have to make sure that you have enough money. And when people, have really big problems, you at least appear to care about those problems. And how you go about fixing them, well, that'll depend on mostly if you're a Republican or if you're a Democrat. But if you're in Congress, you can kind of, in my uneducated opinion, I would say you can kind of sidestep that because it's not your daily agenda. I think governors, Democratic governors, just generally, I think, are better Democrats than Congress people. That being said, it's not a hard and fast rule. There are nuances. There are certainly exceptions. And being a Democratic governor in the South is different than being a Democratic governor other places. But if you look at being a president, it's more like being a governor than it is being a member of Congress. And I think that distinction means a lot. And getting elected as a governor versus getting elected as a member of Congress allows you or forces you rather to address maybe the whole rather than these tribalistic things that are making Democrats lose elections. But that's just my general feeling as a lifelong Democrat and someone who lives in the United States. What do you think, Apostate Nate? Would you vote for AOC if she ran for president? I would, because I think she brings a lot of disruption to the table, which I think the Democrats need.
Lee, at this point, I hate to be that sort of one angle person, but I take this as someone who's middle aged and can accomplish only so much. I'm going to support whoever is more likely to throw out the theocrats. And it's my opinion that, again, I don't know, what she would say about religion, theocracy, etc., as a POTUS candidate, but I would not expect her um, to take the side of my adversaries here. Yeah, Lee, I would probably vote
Well,
for
I
you
don't think
on the
anyone
ballot.
can get elected in the United States without being pro-religion. So I guess maybe if she did take your
Well, she
stance,
doesn't have to disavow God. She just has to distance herself from the extremist messages of the theocrats. That's all.
and can you give me an example of what that would be like?
Sure. I would say look at the state of Oklahoma, where um, if you want to look at the sorts of things that I'm worried about more so on the national scale, the state of Oklahoma has introduced legislation to make no-fault divorce and pornography federal crimes. Um, for example, they certainly want to end them in their own states. Oklahoma
So
is
you're
sort
talking
of
more
this
about like moral judgment from religion?
moral judgment from religion, and really any way in which religion wants to seriously insert itself into the conversation, and that's going to affect your foreign policy, particularly in Israel and Palestine. Um, I would probably vote for AOC on the basis that I just believe it would be a less friendly environment for the theocrats.
Yeah, when it comes to moral judgment from religious people, certainly the party you're looking for is the Democrats. And if you're looking for a less 150% support for Israel, not necessarily Democrats, but I think AOC would fit the bill. She's part of that. What's that? It's her and another congresswoman. There's some like girl pack name or something they call them. I can't remember. It's something like Taylor Swift, but for politics, with all of her music videos, with all of her women walking around and being strong. Yeah, I mean, she has all of that. Um, she can't. Yeah, you can't be too over the top with that. I think to get elected, and that's one of the reasons why Republicans, even before Trump, would always win a certain amount of elections. Republicans have a much better strong whole. They have a much better grip, stronger grip over the American people than the Democrats, because Republicans lie about a bunch of stuff. Democrats do as well, but Republicans do more. And they have religion. If there was one thing I could make part of my campaign or my party, if I was running for office in the United States, it would be religion. It wouldn't be LGBTQ. It wouldn't be marijuana. It wouldn't be fiscal responsibility. It wouldn't be healthcare for all. It would be religion, because we're just more. I mean, some of our allies have state churches, so we don't have that level of religion, but the only reason that can exist is because they're not really religious. We're really religious in the United States, as you well know, Apostate Nate. So I just, if you took a strong stance on religiosism as a Democrat, it's the beginning of putting the nails in your coffin. But you're right. I think she could, and Democrats can stand up against putting the Bible in public schools and having the 10 Commandments in public schools and no fault divorce, like getting rid of that. That doesn't sound like a good idea. Moral judgments on people because of their lifestyles. But Democrats do that all the time when it fits their advantage. But generally, that's more of a Republican thing. So, yes, I would agree with you. I would support someone who took the stances that you just mentioned. It's just one of those things that it can become a slippery slope. And I would say, within reason, what's more important? Taking a stance against religion and moral judgment, or making sure that we have health care for all, or making sure that we have a secure border, which leads into a lot of the problems that we are facing now, or leads in, or, the economy. It's the economy, stupid. What do they always say? Like with every election for the presidency, it's always about the economy. So I think you can do a lot of good things without necessarily wearing it on your shoulder. Hillary Clinton could put down conservatives and Trump supporters without calling them a basket of deplorables, that sort of a thing. So it's how you phrase it, it's how you market it, and it's what your priorities are, which once again go back to my hatred of my own party, the Democrats, because their priorities, the political capital they spend, does not equal the amount of people they could help, because they don't focus on these things that are going to help everyone. They focus on these things that help a very small amount of people. Are those people important? Yes. Do they have rights just like you or I? Yes, of course they do. And we should care about them. But as a Democrat running for the presidency, trying to get into the White House, you only have so much you can do. And you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot. You don't want to start nailing those coffin nails in just from the get go. And that's why Kamala Harris lost. That's why Hillary Clinton lost. Trump did not beat Hillary. Hillary lost. Trump did not beat Kamala. She really lost. And that's a damn shame. I wish that would change. It's not going to change unless we get a disruptor like AOC. It doesn't have to be AOC. It could be Bernie. I think he's probably, unfortunately, too old now to run. It could have been Bernie. But then it goes back to my argument that the Democratic Party is much more difficult to take over and have a revolution that is in favor of the American people than Donald Trump has shown can happen in the Republican Party. I wouldn't say that's in favor of the American people, but it's in favor of the American people, at least in theory, who voted for him. He's a populist candidate. I want a populist candidate on the left who is going to minimize distractions and help the most people possible. And I just don't think that's going to happen.
It's so fascinating to me, Lee, that the Democrats have lost the game of populism, and they've lost it by a mile. Why is that? My question has got me kind of stumped.
It's not something that had to happen. It's just like we've talked on the show about how Republicans could have been into marijuana. They could have taken this a long time ago, and it wouldn't have mattered that they're religious and conservative. They could have said, this is a choice. We don't want the government telling us what we're going to do. And governors, Republican governors, could have said, this is good for our state. Look at all this revenue that we're missing out on. They could have done that, and they just didn't. The Republicans, same situation, could have become the champions of the LGBTQ community. They have, every once in a while, there's like a Republican congressman. I love my gay son. They had the opportunity. They could have said, the government cannot tell you what goes on in your own home. And they didn't do that. Now, it's not surprising they didn't do that, but they could have done that. Just like the Democrats could have become the party of a populist president, and they didn't. They could have done all these things that would have made people energized and would have made people vote for them, but they did not because they're worried about sounding racist. They're worried about sounding homophobic, transphobic. They're worried about what words they use. Good friend of the show, I don't mean to throw him under the bus, Bjorn, is a patreon.com/NEWZ debate supporter, longtime friend and supporter of the show. I remember we had a show, we were talking about homeless people, and he said, Lee, they're not homeless, they're houseless. Like, we shouldn't say homeless anymore, it's derogatory. And I said, well, I mean, you can live in an apartment, that's not a house. So clearly that doesn't, maybe living under a bridge is their home, so they're not homeless, they're houseless. And I was just thinking, like, that's stupid, Bjorn. Like, come on, you're a smart guy, you know that's a dumb argument. And no, he stood by it. That's why Democrats lose, because that's important to them. And it's not important. Are there some people who don't like being called homeless? I imagine there are. But what's the effect of saying houseless? Really nothing. But it's something that's become important for Democrats. Not winning elections, not helping as many Americans as possible, not fixing the border, not having a single payer system in a dream, or just having a public option. It's about how we talk. Republicans don't give a shit about how we talk, and they win mother effing elections. Hey, it's Better Vibes, another patreon.com/NEWZ debate supporter. Better Vibes, if you want to request to speak over on Twitter Spaces, just request. We'd love to hear from you. It's been a long time, pal. Also, everybody over on Stereo, go ahead and leave a voice message. We'll play that live on the show. I think we'll keep going for, 10, 15, 20 minutes if we have some more voices. Otherwise, we could start wrapping up the show now. It's up to you guys. Apostate Nate, do you have anything else to add? Want to give a big shout out and thanks to Apostate Nate. He chose our original topic for today's show, which is the Donald Trump Elon Musk feud. We talked about it for more than an hour. Be like him and support the show at patreon.com/NEWZ debate. And if you want to pick show topics, that's the producer level. But if you just want to be a constant co-host and have your voice heard first, either live on Twitter Spaces or over on Stereo via voice message, lowest support, any level of support over on patreon.com/NEWZ debate puts you in the co-host chair. But yeah, Apostate Nate, why don't we start wrapping things up if we don't have more voices? What do you want to say?
One thing I haven't mentioned, and I don't know if anybody in the conversation has mentioned this, but one of the lessons I'm taking from this relationship and breakup between Musk and Trump, I think, is the old George Carlin lesson. It's a big club and you're not in it. I think this whole relationship and its end is just a reminder that there are people like you and I that will never get that type of ear in the Oval Office. And there are people like Elon Musk who, on the basis really of just the wealth that he can throw around, can get his voice to a certain extent really heard in Washington. I think that's a sobering thought.
Well, yeah, that's the problem with the two-party system. Democrats do that too. They just don't bend over backwards and do it in such a obvious way that Trump and Republicans do.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting anybody's hands are clean here. To me, it's just a reminder that we are just tiny, tiny little birds chirping on the far, far end of the forest.
Wow, well played, well said. Let's see, Reggie, if you want to throw in before the show ends. Swing and a miss. Swing and a miss. Yeah, Reggie with the thumbs down. No worries, Reggie. Let's check in with President Donald Trump before we end the program. What should we ask him? Okay. Let's look towards the future. Mr. President, you've talked a lot about a third term. Are you going to be in the White House another 4 years? Are you going to run for re-election?
Let me tell you, the American people love me. They really do. And I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to keep on winning. And if that means another 4 years in the White House, then so be it. It's going to be tremendous. Believe me.
Yeah, was that enough Trumpy for you, Reggie? Yeah, that sounded pretty Trumpy to me. Got to work on the voice. All right, I think that's going to wrap it up unless we have some more voice messages over on stereo or we have some more people requesting to speak over on Twitter Spaces. I really appreciate Apostate Nate, Better Vibes, and all my other supporters over on patreon.com/NEWZ debate. Go to bit.ly/NEWZ debate for all my links. You can join our free Discord server. You can follow me over on Twitter, send me a message. You can follow me over on, gosh, what are all the things that I'm on? Twitch and Rumble. Yeah. Go ahead and follow me there. Those are my live streams. I do a video live stream while I'm doing this. So I simulcast to stereo and Twitter Spaces, also send video to Twitch and Rumble because I got kicked off of YouTube for simply having a discussion about Kamala Harris and the presidential race. And I got an ultimate strike. I tweeted them. I sent them emails. I said, why is this happening? They actually got back to me and they said, we reviewed the show and nope, you're no longer welcome on YouTube. So that ship has set sail. Big thanks to everybody. Great to have you on the show. I'm going to be busy the next several days. Maybe we'll have a show maybe Tuesday of next week at the earliest. I'll post that on Twitter and also on my Discord server. Check out all my links at bit.ly/NEWZ debate. Big thanks to everybody. That's going to be the end of the show. Have a great weekend. And yeah, we'll have to talk more about Trump and Elon Musk as we get more details. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.